point, John McCain is slamming some of the Republican candidates for their views on waterboarding.
I would return to that policy. I don't see it as torture. I see it as an enhanced interrogation technique.
If I were president, I would be willing to use waterboarding. I think it was very effective. It gained information for our country.
Meantime, is Herman Cain finally feeling the effects of his scandal? The new CNN poll shows a huge drop in Cain's support. Take a look at this. 24% of likely Republican voters now back Mitt Romney, 22% Newt Gingrich, 14% support Cain. That is an 11-point drop from last month to third place. NBC News went back and repolled Republicans surveyed last week, and while the drop is not as dramatic, it is significant. Cain went down a point, but also slid from first to second place behind Mitt Romney. Let's bring in the News Nation political panel. Elleithee is a Democratic strategist and former spokesman for the Hillary Clinton campaign. JP Freire is a Republican strategist. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me. JP, let me start off with you here. We know the Supreme Court will now hear the challenges to the president's health care law. What's your reaction?
My reaction is that it couldn't come at a better time. They also are looking at the case that looks like it's going to be most successful against the healthcare law. The timing is it's of utmost importance. And the thing I found interesting about the discussion earlier was that the whole talk about you can't preempt a law about taxes before it goes into effect. Well, I mean, President Obama said himself that it was not a tax. He sold it this way. He said that it wasn't going to be a punitive measure. And in fact, now they're trying to argue the other side. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting to watch.
Mo, Rick Perry has reacted, among Gingrich and others, but I want to read this. He says the Supreme Court's decision to hear this case quickly is encouraging news for Texas, which faces massive cost explosions under quote-unquote Obamacare. Meanwhile, that is a state where 28% of the people don't have insurance, and another great number of folks in Texas work with jobs that are basically below minimum wage here. So this will set up, if you will, the legality of it, the issue of the Constitution and this individual mandate against what the public sees and wants here, and those millions of folks who do not have insurance.
Yeah, well, first, I'm not surprised Rick Perry is focused on Texas, because by the time this case comes around, he'll be back in Texas.
Did you have that plan? Did you have that plan?
But look, I think this is all right. I think this obviously will become a hot issue. I'll tell you one person who ought to be very concerned about whatever the court rules, and I'm one of those who believes the court will rule in favor of the health care law and follow the majority of the lower court rulings. But one person who ought to be worried about this is Mitt Romney, frankly. If Mitt Romney is the nominee, either way, he's going to lose, no matter how the court rules. If the court rules that it's constitutional, he loses a huge piece of his argument. If it rules it's unconstitutional, his own health care law that he passed in Massachusetts could come under even more fire. And
let me switch you guys real quick, because obviously we could talk more about that, but I want to talk about what happened this weekend at the Republican debate. JP, we heard the laundry list. All of the candidates, except for two, Huntsman and Paul, said they did not agree with waterboarding, and Senator McCain again coming out saying he's very disappointed by statements at the South Carolina GOP debate supporting waterboarding. Waterboarding is torture. This is from Senator John McCain, who served this country. We know his history, know his story. What do you make of the juxtapose against McCain and these candidates?
I think John McCain has always been very quick to pick up on a news cycle and thrust himself into a center.
You think waterboarding is a news cycle, really? You think torture is a news cycle?
I think that he was the candidate in 2008. He took a stance that was at odds with much of the people in his party, and you're now seeing a bunch of people in a primary compete for an electorate that believes that waterboarding is a necessary technique.
So they're playing to their audience. They're playing to that audience.
Well, I mean, they're saying what they feel that their voters might support, sure. But I think that John McCain has always shown a propensity to disagree with the base, and that is in fact why we're not talking about President McCain right now, and he should go his own way.
Well, that's probably not the only reason we're not talking about President McCain, but nonetheless, real quick, Mo, we're out of time. Let me bring you in. Gloria Cain is going to defend her husband in this interview that's coming up. Herman Cain taking a huge dip in the CNN poll, a tiny dip in the NBC News recount poll. Is it over for him and Perry, who now sending out some of their policy via tweets?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, the issue for Cain is not what his wife is going to say on national TV, but it's the myriad of different explanations he's given on national TV. The guy can't tell a consistent story on this. The numbers are beginning to show it. He's running the risk of dropping into Rick Perry territory, who's running the risk of running into Michelle Bachmann territory in the polls. It's not a good sign for any of them.
Mo, JP, thank you so much. Great panel. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.